Tommy Curran, could you expand on that? Do you think if the Patriots are Siberia right now, what were they last year? Because I think we all feel like they've taken a step forward with Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye in terms of their marketability. So how would you sort of come to grips with that?
Well, I think I'm basing it on what we've last seen. The last time players had an opportunity to decide whether or not they wanted to come here would have been last year's free agency period and perhaps Brandon Ayuk. So, players are looking at the Patriots as in they are Siberia until we find further information and data. Like, how appetizing are they? I mean, Phil Perry and I spent some time a few weeks ago talking about free agent wide receivers and where the Patriots fit in terms of palatability if you're a free agent wide receiver. And I think we put them like 5th or 6th behind the teams that have the best players. So it's more, I was saying that more based on players, and I said right now, but until proven otherwise, they are looking at it as an unappetizing destination. What they have going for them is a quarterback, a head coach with a plan, and experience, money, and an offensive coordinator who can afford you some things. So, but I do think they need to start winning to be a much more appetizing destination. Do you disagree with that? I mean, maybe Siberia was a little extreme, but where is less appetizing right now around the league? I think there are fewer places now there are more places now that are unappetizing than were last year. How's that?
Yeah, no, I agree. We were talking about this earlier, and my only point was a lot of places that I would have sort of dubbed Siberia at points in recent memory, Houston, Cleveland, Washington, they turned a corner and became not Siberia because they got a new head coach and a new quarterback, and I'm hoping that that's sort of the travel brochure that the Patriots are putting out right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of looking at it, but even Houston, they attracted players prior to C.J. Stroud going there, not necessarily as free agents. They had to trade for them. They had to manufacture. They had to show some progress. Who did Washington re-sign last year? Who did Washington collect in free agency? Not a lot of great players, but the ones that showed up were really good. So I think that there has to be, if you're a free agent, a level of buyer beware if you come to the Patriots, and the Patriots and Mike Vrabel are going to have to kick ass, which I do think that they will be able to do to a large extent when it comes to talking about what's appealing about this team.
Tom, maybe you can either weigh in on or settle this debate that Hart and I have been having on who will be more important to or impactful on the 2025 Patriots. Hart believes that Drake Maye needs to be the most important person in the building, on the field or sideline, whereas I believe the biggest impact on the 2025 Patriots will be and needs to be felt by Mike Vrabel.
Well, I definitely think it's Vrabel in terms of the same way the Patriots in the 2000, 2001, 2002 period, the most important person was Bill Belichick. Maye's performance, Maye's embrace of what Vrabel is trying to convey is important, because I think right now I would agree with you, because I think it's the culture. And Vrabel has pointed that out a number of times. I think Vrabel's quote of, "We have to protect the football team," he said it like 2 or 3 different times, is really interesting, because he's explaining that you have to have, some sanctity of what you're all about. And you need to be able to make it very clear to players that they have to put the team first and shelve their personal interests. So while Maye is extremely important and will be the hood ornament for this franchise for at least the next 5 years, hopefully for them longer, right now the guy who's, driving the car that has the hood ornament on it is Vrabel.
Hey, TC, the Patriots. Hey, bud. The Patriots clearly have a lot of needs, but one of them is defensive line, edge rusher. And I thought it was interesting. I mean, maybe when you look kind of deeper into the numbers, maybe not so much. But Joey Bosa was released by the LA Chargers. He's going into his 10th year. His sack total not that impressive in the last 3 years. It looks like he's got about a little less than 10 just combined in the last 3 years. He's missed a lot of games because of injury. Is that a guy that you think is worthy of consideration? And is that somebody that you think would fit a profile of what Vrabes wants?
That's a great question. And, it would be great if we had more time. And I think Vrabel spent a fair amount of time at the Combine speaking to the media members who were there about who they were looking for. But when I think, Teddy, about like foundational guys, I would think that Joey Bosa would be less of a player that they would look at in free agency with a crap ton of money to spend. He seems like an accent piece. If a push you over the top player. There's one player, Phil and I did this for our podcast today, Malcolm Kuntz from the Raiders. Mm-hmm. He was out last year, but he's a very promising edge rusher who's having a very good season in 2023. He'd be a kind of guy I would target. Milton Williams is not an edge player, but he can impact games on the inside. Those would be two players who I think the Patriots probably should really target. The problem is, as you look at this and do the research on these free agents, go ahead and Google Malcolm Kuntz and say, free agency or ideal situation. Everybody looks at a player like Malcolm Kuntz and projects their pros and cons for coming to their particular team that they're covering. As Vrabel was saying, there's not a lot of cars on the lot. You might have to outpay or overpay for the one that you want. So that would be a Josh Sweat as an edge player. That would be Milton Williams as an interior player. That would be Malcolm Kuntz as an edge guy, even though they don't have Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl stacked up. You might have to spend a crap ton of money.
Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston, joining us here on WEEI Afternoons. Tom, I heard you talk with Jones and Keefe the other day about a lot of the wide receiver options, and that market seems to sort of ebb and flow. Two-part question. If you had a crystal ball, do you think the Patriots end up with a true number one wide receiver this offseason? And if I asked you to throw a name at me, who do you think the most likely candidate would be?
I think the most attainable would be Chris Godwin. That would be the most attainable because you can bowl him over with money and opportunity, which is Vrabel's, marching orders for these are the two things that we can afford a player, money and opportunity. That's what every player is seeking. So Chris Godwin can have that. Does he have opportunity in Tampa? Yeah, kind of. He's working with Baker Mayfield and a team that has been on the cusp or in the playoffs throughout. So what's your opportunity and how much money can you send to him? And you're talking about a state with zero income taxes as opposed to one with. And, I know that not every game you're taxed on, but half of the games you're going to be taxed significantly here in Massachusetts. It matters, as Bill Belichick pointed out. But, yeah, Chris Godwin would be the first. And then I think that they're going to have to get creative. DK Metcalf spoke to Katie Nolan a few months ago, and all we have to do is follow these tiny breadcrumbs. All we have to go on. Said he didn't find New England appealing. Devontae Adams, he's an older player. Does he want to go to someplace else? DK Metcalf, that's a trade. Excuse me, I already mentioned him. A.J. Brown, he's a player that teams are sniffing around in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has to be reasoned with to explain why that would be a place that should give up on a player once they've just re-signed him to someone. And there would be money to pay and also assets to give up. So to me, I would say Chris Godwin, but yeah, I would say that's what's really dangerous about this free agency. They spoke about we want to be going into the draft without desperate holes to fill. If you don't get Ronnie Stanley, for instance, and Cam Robinson is your tackle that you're pursuing, and say you don't get him, you still have no left tackle. So if you're sitting there and you have Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Will Campbell sitting there, are you going to, with a straight face, go into another season with just a piece of gauze at left tackle? You almost have to take Will Campbell.
So Tom, couldn't agree with you more as well, but he's not my number four. Not my number four. Certainly not Teddy's number four. But he's Andy's number four. I think he's going to turn into Zach Martin, Tom. Which, great football player, but not the left tackle of the future.
Hey, Fitzy, if he's Matt Light, would you take him at 4? If we redrafted the 2001 draft, where would Matt Light go? We don't know. But if you could say, hey, we're going to have a 10-year left tackle there who's going to have a one all-pro season and be stable as hell, would you do that at 4?
As Stone Cold as often like to say? Hell yeah, brother, I would. Hell yeah, absolutely I would. I know, and Matt Light measurables too. I understand completely, but I wanted to get your quick spin on this. So I was reading that the Patriots may be interested in Javon Holland, the safety, who's going to be part of this year's uncharacteristically aggressive shopping spree for somebody, could come in at $15 million a year. Do you really We've talked about running back as a sneaky need. Everybody knows they need receivers, D-line, O-line. Do you think safety is the position of need that comes next in the pecking order?
That's kind of TBD in my estimation, because I thought going into last year they had one of the best safety tandems in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I really did. I think Jabril Peppers had, for the 2 years prior, been in many ways their team MVP, not just their best player on defense. He was their most productive and impactful guy on the entire defense. We know the travails he had in 2024 and the money that he's making. And you look at Kyle Duggar, who dealt with injury, definitely, but he was a spectacular player for them in 2023, and he fell off, in 2022, he fell off a little bit in 2023, still got a contract, and then was hurt in 2024. So I would look elsewhere to spend my money on a player like Javon Holland first, unless you're moving on from whether it be Peppers or Duggar. But I think there's way more leaks to plug. I mean, you don't have a starting right tackle unless you can get and be assured that Caden Wallace turns into that. You don't have a starting left tackle or right tackle. You don't know if Cole Strange is going to be able to play at a level, and you kind of need a guard. You probably should get a center, too, to get ready to take over for David Andrews. You have one spot on the offensive line. Your defensive line is Christian Barmore, Daniel Aquale, and Devon Godshaw. And now Devon Godshaw is being moved, most likely, and Christian Barmore is kind of a question mark. So before you get back there, you have so many spots.
Yeah, Kyle Duggar making averaging $15 million a year, and I think that's what Javon Holland was asking for too. So that would be a steep price to have both those guys back. But Tom, just my last question, a fun topic, and I kind of get a kick out of what's going on down there in North Carolina. I'm curious if you got any thoughts on Hard Knocks Gate, with them basically agreeing to do, which was insane to me that they were going to do a Hard Knocks down there in North Carolina, but now that that has been squashed, you just have any ideas on that story and how that came about ultimately?
It's just fascinating to me because, we've seen Bill trusting Ken Rogers from NFL films in the past, and I understand that that's exactly why he would have found it appealing. But I do understand an NFL resistance to the idea of, why are we doing an infomercial for Bill Belichick here? He's not in the league. He's now kind of peed on the forehead of at least 4 or 5 different owners around the league. His consigliere says that the NFL's a mess and they don't want to be here anyway. Why are we doing this? So I can understand that level of pushback from the league itself. And it also shows on Bill's part either an interest to say, see what you're missing out on? See, look how good I am with these guys, these young guys. You don't think I can relate? So I find it interesting that if they don't want to be in the league, which they have kind of stated outwardly, despite their behavior otherwise, why is there an affinity to continue to do things for the NFL? Look, I'd watch it. I'd watch every episode and and rewind many different things, and we'd have a fun time watching it. So I'd be interested in the product. I just wonder what Bill's angle would be in doing it. Is it spiteful? Is it a favor to Ken Rogers? Or is it to try and continue to show how appealing he is to the league?
Tom, we appreciate everything you do, as always, in your spots, middays, and here with the afternoon show. And also just wanted to give a quick shout and thanks in advance for your agreeing to appear tomorrow night on the live stream that I put together with Doug Kide and Andrew Callahan to raise money for cancer research, 7:30 to 10 p.m. on Kide, Callahan, and my YouTube channels and Facebooks as well. Tom, you are the anchor spot. You're going to be last up, so you're going to be answering a whole lot of YouTube super chats about Patriots free agency and the draft. Get ready, baby.
I'm looking forward to it very much, and thanks for thinking of me on that.